Thank you. Thank you for this space. It's great, and have a lot of things lots of cross talking happening. It's wonderful. I wanted to start with a short proposal, a short practice in threes. We have to be three for that. You'll be standing. Don't do that yet, because I will. And there might be people. So talking about how actually we'll talk about constraints and creativity. Like this proposal emerged because I thought, how can we do something that will work both here and online with people? So even if there won't be people online eventually, that thing emerged from this constraint. So the idea, so I will explain it, and then if people do appear on, then we'll put them in the breakout room and they'll do it in trios there. It's a everyone by now, not thanks to Lior, who's not here, but everyone knows the mirror game, even if you don't do theater and stuff like that, right? So it's a can I borrow you? So basically, can I borrow you? So you will stand here and here.
Stand furthest away.
Looking at me. Yeah, a bit further. Maybe I want everyone to kind of get the idea. That's the setup. One person standing, the other two looking at that person with some space in between them. Maybe slightly closer to that, looking at me really. Yeah, perfect. Now, there will be two stages. First stage, I'll move and you'll be mirroring me. You get it. So mirror thing, yeah. And you just look at me, I'm looking at kind of at the center. I'm not looking at specifically one of you. Okay. Good. And you can, do whatever you want with this. That's first stage. The second stage, I will indicate, will be about a few seconds for that. You two start moving however you want, independently of each other, and I mirror you. Yeah, you're not looking at each other, you're just moving, you're trying to ignore each other, and you move. And I'm the mirror, okay? And I will have each of you as a scientist to make your conditions. You can try two different things. You always look at the middle, the person that is me, you move. One option, I mirror just Julien. Julien. This is one option. So I'm as much as I can, because I'm really peripheral. I'm working with Julien. Other option, I can shift to Julia, and then I'm mirroring Julia, ignoring as much as I can Julia. And third option, I try to mix both. I try to. And you're moving. You're not mirroring me, neither each other. Okay. Make sure I don't know how to do that. There's not a right way of doing it. The only rule is that you look in the middle. You're not looking at either of them.
We are looking at you.
You're looking at me, ignoring the other. And so the single person has these three choices. Mirroring one, mirroring the other, mirroring both. And you can shift between. Because it's very short time, maybe it's better just to do one of them, the second and the third. So you won't do multiple conditions of the same, multiple rounds of the same condition.
So you don't instruct us?
No.
It's between.
No, I'll let the person make the choices when you want. And then we change roles. And all three of us will get a taste of that. Sounds good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's get in threes. Find a place. You need enough space to move. And great.
So I stopped.
The day.
Yeah.
I'm just checking numbers. I will join you at the space. I get lost.
So you can come close here. There's lots of space here. You can use this space. I will just give.
We are still missing one person.
Voila.
Give it time. It's going to be really short. I have to do. Okay. So we'll have a minute and a half for the whole thing for on Thursday, including mirrors. I will just give the talk for one and the first minute and a half, and then every minute and a half.
Who is the first, like, yeah. Because I did not understand the rules. Yeah, so we just moved, basically.
So first, when you hear the bell,
Guys?
you might hear a bell.
You may or may not hear a bell. This means change.
That means we start and then we start again.
But we never are new friends. No. No.
First, the single person moves and the other two
Follow you.
follow
Oh, yeah,
you.
we follow
Here.
you, yeah.
It.
It's there.
With the whole.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And now we change, and now it's the single person is the mirror. The other two are moving, and the mirror decides who they are following. And you have about a minute to try all the different combinations. It's not very long. And you look in as much as possible in the middle. Change role.
Just be there.
Oh, well, like.
It starts again. First, the first person mirror does, and the other two mirror
Ah, right.
person, giving them hard time. Remember when a conference.
The whole of YouTube is watching.
It's gonna be recorded.
Now we change, it's the two persons moving, and the single person chooses who they want to follow. And you can do it in whichever order you want. You have about
Did not want to.
total of 1 minute.
I call it finger dance.
Finger down, finger down.
And roll again. Single person does, the other two mirror. Changing roles, the two are moving, and the single person has 3 choices, following one, the other, or both.
You're yawning.
David, you three for 2 minutes, just talk about the experience. If you felt different, what did come up, maybe differences in the different states? Just to, unfortunately, we could spend much longer than 2 minutes, but this is just for a taste.
Yeah, really hard.
Very hard. It became possible. Really hard. Is that it?
I didn't read it. Somebody starts. I think process by practicing when I was doing my try. Kind of similar to that, but we can still
Feel that.
Yeah.
Very natural.
Pulled out.
Yeah.
That was very much why I was doing.
And then thinking, oh, with that.
And I've been working really hard. Yeah. When I'm dancing and like doing my ballet teacher. And that's having
Yeah. Now, what is the effect of
and that's kind of move.
which is like, I take out the very yoga, like, no, but what that's some of my.
Yeah.
And no brain can be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
So-
So much. I want to
Because of the limitation of my. But what I think you really.
That made it.
You are looking at the interaction between the individuals. Oh, yeah, they definitely. Oh, no, now they're.
I did improvement in it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's like evolutionary.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, please.
So you want to share screens again?
Share screen.
And if you need do you need sound or?
No. Just need screen.
That one should be right? Oh, you maybe have lost it. Close it and.
Oh, yeah, it's maybe lost. It's here. It's okay because it's in a, now it should be.
Close it and then try
Yeah.
again.
Very possible.
Okay. So, sorry for complications.
No complications, people are
Okay.
getting trained.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, as much as I'm concerned, the talk just took place. So the rest will just be footnotes. So what we just practiced was a YUMI exercise. YUMI is just a name, cute name, for a model of collaborative creativity in dance improvisation. I think we can take this. So this is work with Julia, who is right here, and Lou, who is not here, only virtually. And I will try to be. I can't move the slides. It happens with this. Okay. So just to say, and I think this is maybe a very important, maybe second most important slide of this talk is just distinguishing. Those are not, and we've been seeing it throughout the work, and I think it's two perspectives on the kind of work we are doing and talking about here. One, as Melo was saying this morning, she said, "Oh, I want to work on dance." So that's the scientific study of improvisation or dance. So I want to work on that. It's an object of me of myself as a scientist. And the other one, which is not contradiction, it's just a matter of perspective, is the one where improvisation itself is an epistemic mode. It's a way of learning about the world, which is done every day by anyone who is improvising as a practice, and can also be then brought into the lab or combined with a more traditional research, which is what we've been which Julian and other collaborators have been trying and failing to do pretty successfully for the last 10 years or so. Now talk about creativity. There is this idea, there's collaborative creativity, interactive creativity, collective creativity, joint creativity, there's many words. Let's all bring them together. And there's this idea of usually most work on creativity starts from the individuals and go like, okay, but then when we have a group, what happens? If we put them together, is it just the sum of the creativity of each of the persons give you the group creativity? Do we actually get less creativity in a group? And there's some results speaking to that groups can be less creative than individuals, maybe because of different issues, or maybe also possibility that under some conditions, the collective context can actually enhance creativity. Now, this is really, really simple. I mean, we need much more time. Of course, in our group, we don't think in terms of individuals creating groups. Groups are the ontological beginning, but this is this requires more than 20 minutes of talking. So this is basically the idea behind YUMI. I'll just read what's in orange. Creativity is enhanced during interaction, where the boundary between our own contribution and the contribution of others to a shared outcome is partially blurred, but does not totally disappear. Okay, so just a moment where we were there, I mean, in a very hectic way right now, when two people are moving, one person takes movement a bit of each of them, and there is a chaotic situation in which I know I'm contributing something to the movement of that person, but I'm not sure exactly what and to what extent, which is different than totally being mirror, where I'm totally controlling the situation, or where the other one is totally controlling the situation, and I'm just being like, ooh, I'm moving, and the air doesn't seem to respond. Yeah, those, I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit the affect, but this is the kind of affect that can be associated with this kind of situations. And yeah, so I think that says the same thing. So I'll skip that to go into. So this is not a new idea. Maybe slightly in the wording, it might be, and of course in the experiment we will be showing you in a moment. But you find it a lot in descriptions, either coming from artists like Lisa Nelson's work in the Blind Unison Trio that we wrote an article with her about it, which is submitted with Julia and others. In Body Weather, if you know Body Weather, technique from Tanaka, so there's a beautiful paper by Sarah Pini on that, and she uses a term that comes from ping and placement, cross-scaffolding, or distributed creativity in contact improvisation as described by Torrance and Kimmel and collaborators, or the zone in jazz improvisation, which has been studied more, I think, than in dance. All those areas involve that something that has to do, this is nice in the Rosen et al. Paper with EEG, talking when improvisers improvise, there's a certain sense of losing control, but not totally being out of it. Yeah, and that's place we're talking about. And it's in that place where we say that creativity kind of takes place. However, the problem, those are all very, actually, this is a literature that influence us, or that we actually involved. Julien is a musician. I practice and teach contact improvisation and tuning score with Lisa's work and Body Weather as well. And this work is very beautiful, but it's all really, as scientists, we're like, that's nice, but this is really, sometimes it's hard to properly study. It's not very complicated, and we can't do the usual things we do when we want to study something, is manipulate the object, create conditions, ask questions about causality. And so we developed, this is a framework we developed, in a slightly older framework we developed 2019 and onwards with virtual reality, with NSAD lab in Paris. These are two people dancing, as you see, in close by spaces, but separate. They're connecting, they're in VR, of course, virtual reality. What they're seeing, we are seeing now a camera from the outside, as if it was here, but what they're seeing is just spheres, which represent their own body and the body of their dancers, but just in a very purified environment, which has a lot of interest. And I think we did some of the things were said in the earlier talks. We don't have to repeat why it's interesting to use virtual reality. I think it's kind of the slide we already had earlier in the morning. So we published already some work with this frame, showing that we can use it to study certain things. For example, when my own body disappears, when I don't see myself anymore, which is something that dancers sometimes experience, how that changes my relationship to the other, both affectively and kinetically. You can read that. So there's some, and oh, it's important, just I think there's a short video that might show you. This is work we've done in the Tate, also part of the published results. And if it did not work, there should be a video there. Anyway, it's important to know, important to know, this is just to give you an example. So you have the people moving around, there are some people around, but they are pretty undisturbed by them because they're in virtual reality, which is a nice advantage also. They see that, and then later they talk about it alone with each other. They fill up questionnaires. So we get a lot of first, second, and third perspective person data. So now we go to our question. So our question is this, rephrased a bit differently. How does the blurring of our effects on the result of our interaction impact our sense of agency, joint agency, and our creativity? So again, it's asking the question of what we just practiced. Like, of course, we did in a minute and a half. We need a bit longer to, this is work that, of course, was developed very much in this way. I mean, our work in our team, which involves scientists and artists and designers, involves and choreographers and anthropologists and philosophers. We are in the studio, we try out things, games like you just did, we talk about them, we try other versions, we create virtual reality or other kinds of things, we use them, we talk about them, and that's how research, the questions arise from the practice and not the other way around. So this is how we did this. So this is, again, you'll see now, this is a new version. It looks a bit different, a bit similar to what you see before, but it's actually really different. What you see, the three white dots, I'm sorry, the video is because of the Zoom is a bit slow, but it's not great. It doesn't look like that, unless there's some problems in the connection between the computers. This is the person, the three blue dots or whatever color that is actually, that's what they see. So they move, they see three blue dots kind of around them, and they can move with them, and they freely improvise with these three dots, which seem to have this weird behavior because they slightly mirror them, slightly don't. Sometimes they do what they do, sometimes they do something else. It's this, many people, even when we first ran this thing, people thought, oh, this was like totally AI, or this was like the programmer doing some things or some smart algorithm. But actually, if this will work, you'll see this is actually what is happening. Or not. Let's try again. Will this work? Yeah, okay. So what is really happening is you have two people moving as before, but what they are seeing is the middle. It's three spheres that are very dumb. They are simply the middle between them, which creates this thirdness. But, and in this experiment, you're going to know, we are telling them that. That's not even a secret. We tell them, you'll see there is that, the other person is kind of the other side, you're both controlling them and so on. But during the full experiment, they're only seeing till the end, and they're only seeing the blue spheres, and they interact with them. This is a simplified description of the protocol. There's a whole part of this protocol that I'll not have time to discuss today, which has to do with varying degrees of control. So if you're interested in that, I'll be happy to talk. And Julian will be happy to talk offline. Here, we just want to look at the overall effect of being in this kind of environment, an environment that for about 12 minutes altogether, more or less, you move with three spheres that move a little bit like you. Imagine what we just did in this thing. Instead of a minute and a half, it will be 10 times longer, more or less. Yeah, but it's that kind of experience. We have them, we explain it to them, they know what those spheres are, and then but very quickly, they kind of forget usually. And then at the end, we have questionnaires that we will be looking at, and we have the motion data from the system itself. So it's kind of very cheap and easy way to get relatively good data. So this is, just to give you an idea, some overall ratings of the experience. This is, we ask them, like we give them statements, and we ask them from 0 to 6, how much do you agree? So this is, I felt this way of interacting has increased my creativity, and it's definitely a big yes. Yeah, so it works. It's in that sense you can say an ecological validity of they don't feel very constrained, for example, as in the one dimension mirror game to move something left to right for half an hour. They are feeling that, which can be frustrating for some people. They are feeling rather creative, even though none of them has done virtual reality before. They're all dancers or improvisers, professional or amateur, but they've not done, almost none of them has done virtual reality, and no dancing in virtual reality. Also important, because many scientists, when we So like, so what do you tell them to do? And we're like, what do they do? And like, they just move around. And like, but what's the task? We're like, it's to move around. I mean, improvise. And they're like, but it's not a task. You need to. So no, so at least these people, and this is part of the reason we chose improvisers, they're very comfortable. It's in the negative, yeah. So not having instructions distracted me, bothered me. Maybe 6 people out of 44. Most people felt rather comfortable just improvising with spheres. In virtual reality, there's not been like they didn't need to have a more directed score. This is our key question for YUMI. Through the different episodes, I was not able to distinguish between my contribution and that of my partner to the movement of the spheres. There was this blurring. And what's very nice, and this is not something this came out from the data, we didn't know what people will respond to that, is that we get a very distributed response. So we have people that are totally not confused. They know exactly when it's them and when it's the other. And we have people that are more confused, let's say. They feel a bit more like, I don't know, what is the, and so the results very quickly. So our predictions is that there will be a relationship between this confusion and the creativity. Now, it's really hard to measure creativity. We'll be very interested to hear more about your ideas, how to do it. We don't know. So we are trying. One is correlating with other responses to other questions. Here is a question where they see feeling being more than oneself during the experience. So it's not exactly the word creativity, but it's something that we can associate with creative moments. You are feeling be bigger, physically, more able, more capable, more present. And indeed, the more people are confused, the more they are confused about who is in control, the more they feel bigger, than themselves. We take the head movement and we do a PCA on velocity. So it's on velocity, and we take 2 groups: the ones who are low confusion, so people who are clear about when it's them and when it's the other, and people who are high. So those are the low, and those is the high distinction. Sorry, the other way around. Those that are highly distinctive, they really know if it's them or the other, and those that are confusing. And what we see here is the PCA, the first dimension of the PCA. And what we see is that the first dimension of the PCA explains more of the variance for this group. One way of understanding it is that they are more regular. There's less variability in the high. And we can say, like some people have been claiming in the literature, that motor variability is a key for creativity. So in a sense, the lower it is, the more creative you want, but this is very early. And this is for much of the work that people are doing here. This is using cross correlation. We compare who is leading and who is following. And what you can see, so if it's less than 0, it's I lead. And if I'm here, I follow. Yeah. So it's the lag between me and my partner. If it's negative, this means I'm before my partner. If it's positive, this means I'm behind my partner. And what we see is that the ones who are the distinguishers, they lead, and the ones that are the confused ones, they follow. And we'll be really interested to hear your interpretations for that. I give one clue, so I'm finishing here because I think we're already late. So it's very preliminary results. We are still analyzing the data, and we'll be really interested to hear your thoughts, your ideas for approaches, how to analyze the data and how to interpret it. I can just say that those are interesting ideas authored all 2017 that motor variability is a creative path, and this variability is enhanced when you are confused. And that's in the sense of YUMI, that when you are more blurred, your notion of control is blurred. Interestingly, one might think that leading is more creative than following. Interesting question, but there is something really interesting in following. Your partner is your constraint. When you lead, you don't have a constraint. You do whatever you want. When you follow, there is a constraint. A lot of work in improvisation in music and dance, and beautifully captured in Torrent's more or less recent article, is about how constraints lead to creativity. And there's some nice imaging data from Stephen Brown going against his own beliefs. that followers are the creative ones. You can look at the paper. And of course, YUMI, as we said earlier, YUMI is not totally out there as an idea that is without precedence. There's different ideas about agency, improvisation, creativity. Raven, I think it's pronounced Danish. That's how. Raun, okay, thank you. Raun Pasheri, I can do, I'm not French, but I think I pronounce it more or less correctly. Deans and Pini from Australia. Galek, this is a very international group. So they all have different frameworks. They think about how agency relates to improvisation or creativity. And I think, and it will be interesting to bring those together. That's it. I think just to say this work is done with a lot of other people that are not. Thank you. Sorry, I'm a bit.
No, you're not. Okay, well, that was great. I have to not ask questions. So I leave it to you because otherwise I will gobble up all the small time. Peter, you look like you're about to jump out of your chair, so you have to go.
Jump out of my chair later. But one thing was the leader follow-up question, because we discussed that with the dance and stuff, that at least two different definitions of that word, and I think it matters for the interpretation. Who moves first and last, and who makes the other one move, and they don't have to be the same. For example, I can put myself in a situation so that I know you will do something, and then I can follow you afterwards. And just that we're of course measuring the first last one with like cross correlation.
Totally.
But even then, assuming that they go together. You were asking why on earth are people who are confused also the people who are following, and this first work, I think, where the leader is one who represents the shared goal, so they know what's going on, and the follower doesn't have to know what's going on, so they just let the impulses come and follow them. That would explain the confusion. And just having done a little bit of interviews with partner dancers, the followers often don't remember the moves. Same reason, because they don't need to remember them.
They don't, it doesn't work like that when you follow. I hate this word, but you can go at least. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So there's just the.
Yeah, no, it's I think very much.
And it's so exciting.
It is. Anybody else jumping out of their chair? Go ahead, Annika.
Yeah, thanks, Asaf. I wanted to your point of how to measure creativity. That brought up the question: what do you care most about? Like, why do you care about creativity? It could be more like vitality, or I mean, whatever it is. Maybe you don't have to answer now, or you want to. I don't know, but that was the question that popped up immediately after. So, why do you care? That will guide you to how you want to measure it.
I think one needs to explode this word for multiple reasons. I think we need to explode it into something else, and yeah, I think it's also too much captured by capitalism. So it's.
Can I ask one question? You have a linear relationship between that more self and confusion, and the work, and the work that we've been doing with Peter Keller suggests a more parabolic shift.
We've been discussing it last week, and we've not had. So for the moment, you're doing the simplest analysis, but we expect, and actually there's some reasons to suspect there might be something more.
Okay.
Once we look at the data a bit in a more.
That would be my gut.
Ours as well, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay.
Maybe a small comment linking to you asking for a definition of creativity and you making a political comment. Because we recently did some cross-cultural work looking at creative, words, let's say, like coming up with creative usages for the common creative task, find creative uses for a cup. That is not what it's usually used for. And there's some prior literature that says that people from more collectivist cultures come up with creative usages that are not just uniquely creative and wonderful, but also useful, while more individualistic culture people come up with very unique, but maybe not very useful outcomes. And I find that is somehow also mappable onto a movement, because there is a useful movement and there is also just that movement that doesn't give us the harmonic movement together, right? So maybe that creativity balance would also be interesting to look at.
I didn't, it may give, it's a good, excellent thing to go back to context improvisation. Yeah, so this is this cross scaffolding of Kimmel. It's, if you go, if you did the paper is, anyway, many things to say about the paper, but there's some beautiful pictures. It's great for the pictures. And, but you can see some of the, you can see some, I'm sorry, it's lots of good things about this paper, but you can really see how the most creative, what for him is the radical creative cases, which are totally distributed, are cases very much like that. The movement they are doing is nothing like we've seen Emily Cross's, you know, ballerinas flying all over the place. Those are people lifting each other, making, you know, being useful for the other. And I think you see a lot in context improvisation. I think the kind of care that you see in this kind of practices proposes certain aesthetics also of care, which are very different from the ones that like formal contemporary dance, like the ones, sorry, I'm being political again, like we've been seeing this morning, that does not offer to the same degree this. Of course, there's exceptions, there's partnering work in a lot of forms, but contemplation is like based, I think, in many ways on this kind of, and those cases that Kimmel is describing are beautiful for that, because those are the most creative ones. They are not, anything about them but they are the ones in which one is being, as you say, being useful, which also goes to say that if you want to try some YUMI, tomorrow evening we have the jam, 8:30 to 10:30.